Welcome to Revive Ministries Podcast. This month is March. It's one of my favorites since, well, it's my birthday too. But also in the Northern Hemisphere, we're entering to spring. It changes each year, but just as change happens in the season, it also happens in our recovery. We have a new guest today. Her name is Amy Sinha. Is that correct? Am I saying it?
That's correct.
Thank you so much for joining us. I like to give a disclaimer. In the States, if you are in crisis, we have the 988 number. Do you know what you guys have over there at all? What they have? When it comes to crisis?
All I know is the police number that kind of covers everyone. I think that's 911.
Well,
111. I can't remember.
It's totally fine. But I just want to share with those that whatever resources, when it comes to crisis and your whatever's close to home, I always don't like to reinvent the wheel. So find what helps you, whatever community, whatever has been helping you. Reach out to the people that have been there. I always say this, Amy. People say better than me a lot of times. So Viktor Frankl, he says it this way. I want to get your thoughts. When we are no longer able to change the situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. What comes to mind when you hear this quote?
I think when you're just stuck in a situation you don't want to be in, it's like, how do you get yourself out of that situation? And if you can't physically get yourself out of that situation, then you have to mentally change your perception of that situation. And then then your situation will appear different because you have a different mindset.
Yeah, and I feel sometimes on some of the bad days when it rains and it pours, sometimes you can only change one thing. You can control only one thing. A lot of things are external, and that's why it gets frustrating. But sometimes it's just getting out of bed. Sometimes it's just doing something. I do not minimize what people go through working in the mental health field. I know it's hard, but also at the same time, there's I like what Viktor Frankl says, and I read his book, but I just also like how he describes it very plainly. A lot of situations, most situations, sometimes you can't change, but sometimes you have to change how you look at them and how you perceive forward. Change sometimes could look as a bad thing. It can be frustrating, it can be annoying, especially these last 3 years with COVID, 2-3 years. But it's sometimes people think it's abandonment. I don't always necessarily feel that is. It's an adjustment to what you're, and kind of reevaluate when it is important to you. Life, is inevitable. Things will change. And I'm going to want to also hear your story, Amy. I'll always having new guests. I would like to hear where they come from, especially when, for those who are listening, watching, to get a little, because these questions, these topics that I come up with Revive Ministries, a lot of times not talked about, but more importantly, it's more important when they know who the person is. Why should I care? At this point, and I think that is a very important part of it. Veronica Togaleva, I don't know how to say her last name. I apologize. I'm butchering names like left and right. But she says this great thing. She said, to know yourself, you must sacrifice the illusion they already do. What comes to mind when you hear this quote?
I think over the years we build up our perception of ourselves that actually may not be true. And I think it's great. And I think that's why other people come in handy, because they have a different viewpoint about yourself that you don't have. And I think maybe sometimes they're more true, because we go through life like hearing negative things, and we think a lot of negative things about ourselves and believe them. And then most of the time they're not true. So it is, I mean, I can experience it. I have experienced it. So it's good that other people take a look in and go, no, actually, this is how we perceive you. And maybe you should, think of yourself this way. And I think maybe that's what she's kind of talking about. So the illusion that we create, because it is all an illusion. Maybe she's got a point on that.
Yeah, and I feel also the idea, even if you get close to the mark from your understanding, we're not static. I keep changing. No. So like what you may know of who you are may not be who you are today. And so I think it's an ever growing process. I think you're right in that aspect that, lean on those around you, because you could be too close to the elephant. You could be too close to it to actually see what's really going on. Revive Ministry doesn't really proselytize, but I do, think of it as an outreach ministry. Like if I went to another country, I gave, when I think about Revive Ministries, I think of the idea of allowing people to share their stories. And a lot of times you go to another country, let's say Africa, you give medical, but a lot of times things get kept in. We don't talk about, culture. I'm half South Korean, half Puerto Rican, so I'm kind of just confused. But a lot of times with the cultural aspects, that's also hard to navigate. Yeah. But I do like just bringing this one from the Bible. It says, desire without knowledge is not good. That whoever make haste with his feet misses his way. So it's the urgency, like whether you're faith-based or not. I like this. Yeah. What it kind of speaks about is just a lot of times restraint and pause is especially when you're making decisions. And also, a lot of times people are like, what's time management? I'm like, I think at the core is valuing your time. Valuing your time, because if you ask yourself, why do I need to be better at time management so I could be more effective? Why is that important? Because if you're effective, you're valuing who you are, the time that you spent. Yeah. Amy, I want to give you an opportunity, tell us about how'd you get to where you are today, a little bit about your story. I read a little bit, obviously, but I wanted them to hear from you. But share a little bit about what brought you to where you are today.
Oh God! Well, I've been through many challenges. I had a lot of disabilities when I was younger, which obviously shaped who I am right now. And it's been a challenge, because a lot of physical things that people take for granted, like I can't feel hot or cold anywhere throughout my body. So feeling like I don't cook. Not that I can't cook. I've never learned how to cook because it's self-preservation. I don't want to burn myself or burn the house down. I also have bad eyesight. I had cataracts when I was young, so I've got no lenses in my eyes. So I have to wear contact lenses and glasses, but I still only have like a fifth percent of my vision. And I also developed arthritis, which meant my mobility was very, very limited and very painful. And because of that, I stopped growing at the age of about 10 or 11. So I've always been short. So I've had to go through that. So there's not only the boundaries of like physical boundaries, but also boundaries of what people think of me, because they judge me. Well, I thought they judged me for my height. Whether they do or not is another thing. I can't see what other people are seeing. But that kind of shaped who I am. I kind of, it has had a lot of boundaries, but I'm lucky that I do have family, really amazing family and friends who kind of never let me get into that. I can't do anything because I've got so many restrictions, and because of that I've kind of pushed forward and kind of tried to do things to the best that I can. And I went to university, and nobody actually ever thought that I could go to university. And
Mm.
I ended up going, and I went to a university 6 hours away from where I lived, which was another challenge. But I wanted to
Mm.
go there because I'm a jazz singer, and it was the best college in the UK at the time for
Mm.
jazz, and I really, really wanted to go there. So I did. I made it happen, and I pursued my love of singing, and I released an album, and I collaborated with a record label in New York, and
Mm.
now I'm a voiceover artist. So it's kind of helped me, even though I kind of understand where people are coming from. I guess I
Mm.
do. I'm quite patient. I do have empathy, but
Mm.
then at the same time, I don't let other people's problems kind of reflect on me, because
Mm.
I think I've developed a shield that
Mm.
I can listen to people, but I don't take them on board. And I think a lot of people who do that unfortunately struggle,
Mm.
because they just feel everything that somebody else is going through. And
Mm.
even though, it's a great quality to have empathy, but when it's weighing you down,
Mm.
I think people need to reflect other people's energies, so
Mm.
they don't feel like overwhelmed. So yeah, it's been tough, but
Yeah.
it's a learning thing.
Yeah, and there's a lot of unpack there, but I do appreciate what you said. Compassion fatigue is a huge thing. Obviously, working in the field,
Yeah.
you see a lot of things, but at the end of the day, there's a healthy boundary. When I come home from work, I'm home. I'm not. I try to keep my work separate. It's a very humble job. Sometimes I realize I can't do as much. I think that's one thing that some people, if you embrace that, I feel you learn a lot about yourself. And then again, and like you said, people come to my office a lot of times that are saving the world, but not saving themselves, and it's hard to see. So I think that one of the hardest lessons, not only myself but I've seen, is to look at yourself in the mirror. Really look at yourself in the mirror, and that could be one of the hardest things to do, because I could help. I'm empathetic. I really love caring, but if I'm not taking care of my home, if I'm not talking to my wife, if I'm not there, then then I won't be. You can't give what you don't have. And lastly, I think it's awesome that you do music and you do jazz. For me, I love music. I'm not, I don't. One thing I realized was there's so many people so much better than me, but I still love it.
That's not the point, though. I mean, music is for yourself. I mean,
Yeah.
it is really.
uh,
I know everyone sees like famous people and they want to be
yeah.
like a stardom, but music is you have to do the things that you do. You have to do for yourself, for
Mm.
you to feel good. You can't do it in the hope that it's going to make like you're going to become famous and
Yeah.
recognition, and I think a lot of people do it for that, and I think that's the wrong reason
Yeah, and I
to do
feel like
something like
I
that.
was very lucky to learn that lesson early. I learned that lesson really early.
Yeah.
How I wasn't that great. Like I was okay, but like it took a lot of. But at the same time, it's a wonderful way for me, at least, um, to share a story, to share how you feel. You can't really
Yeah.
express with words. You can write well. I can write pretty well, but at the same time, there's something that music does that kind of goes beyond just what the words say. So I do
Yeah.
find that um, a lot of times when in this podcast, I talk about communication and one of the and let's say the lack thereof. I could talk to you right now because but a lot of times you'll have superficial conversations when you have, and music is one way of communicating. Your thoughts and whatever, whether you share it to the masses or just share it to one loved one or whatever,
Yeah.
what have you. So I think when I think of music, I think it's just another expressive form of communicating, another way you can just be cathartic. Because a lot of times we're in our heads a lot. You could
Yeah.
journal, but music's just another way for me to kind of do that. I really just want to share that. But besides that, a lot of times I said before, it's kind of a haunting way of thinking, but where our lives are always unfinished, if you really think about it. If you're kind of embrace that, then you don't really get so caught up where you should be.
Yeah.
The should. Oh, you
Yeah.
should be here. I should have kids. I should be in this place, in this neighborhood. No, I think it takes time. It's easy for me to say, but I want to hear from you, Amy, what your experience with setting those boundaries of the shoulds. What should I be at? For me, it was a lot of pain, a lot of self-talking, a lot of, and yeah, it took a lot of kind of expressing myself either through music or just through writing or just talking to people, that I began to realize, not that my family had anything against, maybe they didn't understand, and the point is they won't, and that's okay. But the thing is, they're there, they want the best for you, and you kind of categorize, and it has been helpful moving forward. How about for you when it comes to, you mentioned all those medical barriers that you were,
Yeah.
so what has been helpful for you moving through that?
Well, I think there's a lot of pressure from, say, society of where
Mm.
you should be,
Yeah.
but I think it varies in different societies. So obviously
Mm.
I'm in the UK, but I'm Indian. So
Mm.
Indian has different, shoulds. You should be married at a certain age. You should have kids. Then, whereas
Mm.
in the Western society now, I guess it's more different. So women need to be more independent. But again,
Yeah.
we've still got that old fashioned, we should be married, say, before we're 30. We should have a house. We should have a great job that pays
Mm.
well and then pay off all your student debt.
Mm.
It's hard. And especially then when you have a disability, it's like you just can't, I can't do it. I couldn't do it. But then in my head it was like, well, I should be. And so
Mm.
then I put a lot of pressure on myself, and I wasted years on that I
Mm.
should be doing this, but I'm not. And the years of feeling guilty guilty that I'm not, my family is, I'm not, my family can't see that I'm doing this. I'm not married. My parents
Mm.
haven't walked me down the aisle, and I
Mm.
should be married at my age. So now, now I'm kind of just like, it's just too much. I can't cope. So I've kind of left that all aside. And I think comparisons, especially in music, you're comparing yourself to
Mm.
different people all of the time, and again that adds pressure. And I think my emotions have like gone like that, and
Mm.
a lot of depression, and then when you're up, you're up, when you're down, and again that just adds to a lot. So I think the best way to do it is just block everyone out and just
Mm.
go, well, this is what, maybe this is, have a goal, like my own goals, and this is what I want to achieve, and
Mm.
just do it. And it doesn't matter if my friends have done it, doesn't matter if the people like on TV have done it, it makes no difference. But it's hard.
Mm.
It's hard because we're in a social, we're
Mm.
social beings. We
Mm.
we we watch the media, we talk to different people. So it is hard to block everybody off. But
Mm.
I do think it's important to just have your own, like
Mm.
keep your own goals in your mind and not be swayed by other people's goals, because they're
Yeah.
not our goals to live. We've got our own goals.
And I feel like you bring up a very good point. The idea that, at least for me, and I would say, if I want to do something, it has to come from me. Can't come from anyone else. I kind of, being in the mental health field, you might have kind of a lot of, I want to set these goals, and goals. There has to be some sort of habit, and the change in habit or routine in your life. Let's say you want to lose weight, you want to get fit, you want to look. So okay, so what are you going to change from the 20? There's only 24 hours in the day. Well, I want to. I need to change these habits, and it gets. And if it's someone else's goal, it's going to be a lot harder, especially if you're not feeling good about yourself. If you look at yourself and you hate yourself, or you're depressed, I jokingly say, like, who would eat well? Who would eat like a broccoli or veggie salad or something if they feel miserable? And and continue. It's not sustainable, at least from what I've seen. When it comes from within, a lot of people will ask, rest is different. What, I have a long day at work or whatever, and people are like, oh, you need to rest. The podcast, no, I love my podcast. I love doing the podcast. People are like, oh, there's different kinds of rest. I'm a gamer too. I like gaming, so it's a different kind of thing. So I segment it in different avenues. It's not that and one person asked me one time before, when I was really struggling, they said, do you have a hobby? I'm like, I don't deserve a hobby. I think when you kind of really think about it, that's where I was. So now looking back, I think all of us should have some sort of hobby, something kind of creative outlet. I don't know what it is. Because sometimes it's hurry up and wait. I was in the military. A lot of times it's just, you're waiting a lot. So, and our own minds could be our own worst enemy a lot of times. But I think what it says underneath, it says unfinished our journeys at any given moment is unfinished, it's for me, it has been a constant understanding of that. Certain aspects of my life I really wish I should have been here or should have done
Yeah.
that. We're human, but when we allow that kind of I guess slack, this one quote from Thomas Quayle says every answer can be followed by another question. I think we can dive deeper. It's when we're less concerned of getting somewhere, we can actually get a little bit deeper and what's important. And I think what you said um, when you make the goals personal to you, I want to do this
Yeah.
not because someone else. And also try. My own advice is try not to get bitter with those who don't understand because
Yeah.
they want the best, but they don't know the context. And then at the same time, lastly, the naysayers to say, "Oh, you should have." I hate to say it this way, but I say sometimes, if things go bad, are they going to be the ones bailing you out? Probably not. They're not. If you end up homeless on the street, will they sit there with you? Not. So I know that's a weird way of thinking, but at the same time, your goals have to be your own, and
Yeah.
your what you dream has to be your own. So I really feel what you said was really speaks to me. Um, Getting back to the theme, discovering what is next. Amy, what has been helpful regarding this? It's very broad theme. Helpful for you when deciding what is next for you. Like, so on the theme of the month, this month is discovering what is next. Amy, what has been helpful for you when deciding what is next? Navigating as things change day to day.
Yeah. I think what really been helpful is that when I've finished something and I don't know what's coming up, there's the tendency to go, oh my gosh, everything's finishing, nothing is, my life is over, nothing is coming in for me. But there's always going to be something around the corner. Always. Never has there not been a time that something new hasn't come my way. So I think I've learned now just to sit back and let fate or the divine or whatever kind of
Mm,
bring me into my next phase, and then just to be. And I think it's just for me to be aware about
mm,
what is coming in and the opportunities, and then whatever feels right to me, kind of take them if I feel like that's going to be helpful. And that's actually how the voiceover came, because that was obviously music and I was putting out music and I was like, oh, I kind of want to take a break from this, and then just happened to somebody talk to me about voiceovers and it kind of resonated and I kind of went with it, and
mm.
yeah, it's now become my career that I'm doing right now. So I think that's probably what's helped me.
But, when I think about also when we're discovering what is next is, sometimes it won't work out. Sometimes it may, sometimes it does, you fall, but there's this old expression, you fall forward.
Hmm.
Especially if you understand what happened. I think a lot of things we
Yeah.
learned are from our mistakes or maybe, um, but at the same time, one of those things that help is not how would I say silencing ourselves and just rushing in. Okay, this
Yeah.
doesn't work. I don't want to talk about. Let's go to the next
Yeah.
thing. I think pausing and taking the moment to say, why did this not work out? What could I have done? Maybe it wasn't a good fit. And I think then accountability doesn't become a bad word as it is sometimes. Accountability a lot of times I'm talking about your internal how you accountability becomes something that can be supportive, something that can be motivating, especially with positive people and the way you see and perceive what's ahead. Yulia says it this way: it doesn't matter how strong and well prepared you are if you have no direction. So take time. Take time. Why do you want to do these things? I want to be a singer, like we said. Why? Why do you want
Mm.
to be a singer? Why do you want to be a musician? And not because of what you see on TV. Ask yourself: do you like singing? Do you, and what would you like to see happen? Directions are very, I would say, one of the most fundamental things that have helped me take the pause moment. If I did a project, it didn't work out. Why didn't it work out? Do I not want to abandon the whole idea? Maybe it's just adjustment to something that being more appropriate. What comes to mind when you hear this quote, Amy?
I think like what you said, it's kind of know what you're getting yourself in for.
Hmm.
So I think if you have no direction, it's like, I think sometimes we think things are have to be following on from what we've done.
Hmm.
And so, but then some things can like have a change, like say you're working in an office. And I think COVID had a lot to do with changes over the last few years because they
Hmm.
realized, well, actually, I want to do something else. I don't want to spend my life traveling,
Hmm.
every day to go to a job, which actually I really, really don't like. And they've realized, okay, I want to work from home. So, and I think sometimes a leap of faith, if you really want to do something, and this is,
Hmm.
as you said, this is, you have to kind of really look into yourself and go, I really want to do it.
Hmm.
I think sometimes you have to kind of disregard the money side for a
Hmm.
bit, and say, okay, I'm not going to make any money, but I really want to do this. And then as you're doing it, it's
Hmm.
inevitable that you will make money. If you
Hmm.
deeply love something that you're doing, it won't be a job, it won't be a lifestyle, and you'll make money for it. You'll be able to support yourself, but it's just having the leap of faith to trust that it's going to work out. Now, if you don't trust it, it's not going to work out. So you do have to trust it and believe in yourself. So I think that's what maybe the direction, preparing for the different direction, but then having faith that that new direction will work out.
But like I was saying, in it doesn't matter. When you think of your life as long-term investment, you start to make wiser choices. If you just think, I need some result tomorrow or today,
Yeah.
it doesn't go well. So that goes. I feel my advice, and then I'm going to ask your final thoughts. Is really think about your life, whether it's your goals, your relationships, your friendships, your family, as long-term. Generally, you make wiser choices because you're in it. You're in it. So that's my last little tidbit. I want to ask you, any final thoughts would you like to add, and also anything you want to share with those listening? I will put it in the notes, but any final thoughts you would like to share with those listening today?
I think we just need to trust more and trust in the universe and whatever you believe in. I really do believe that there is something powerful more than us, and I think and you do have to trust that everything will work out because it
Mm-hmm.
will. You just have to do again what you have to do what's in your heart, and if you truly believe that something is right, then trust that it
Mm-hmm.
will work out. And it doesn't matter what anybody says. It doesn't matter if they don't believe it. If you believe it, that is all that matters. And I have proof of that happening. So I don't like say things that I haven't experienced myself. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that would be my final thought.
Yeah, and I think at the very least, take time to just you know talk to your and
Mm,
talk your inner talk with yourself.
mm,
Ask what's important. Honestly, these things are will take time, but I think when you give yourself time, you begin to see that the things you're doing are important to you, and then yeah, the hope is that you will continue on that route, even if it
yeah,
messes up, because the thing is you're investing in yourself, and life
yeah.
honestly keeps changing. So it's not about getting somewhere, it's just becoming something better. So thank you again. Thank you so much, Amy, for joining us with your thoughts and everything today. I just want to share with those who are listening, remember to stay updated with all things Revive Ministries, the various platforms. ReviveMinistriesFL.com is the website. This is the last quote. In February was African American month for in the states. We recognize those who were struggling during the slavery, and also the rights, that civil rights movement in the '60s. So Martin Luther King had this one quote. It says, if you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, you have to keep moving forward.